UFC 271, Draftkings has released the salaries so we could take our first look. You can call me Kunith. Let's make some money this week. We had a ton of fun last week. Thank you all that watched, liked the videos, subscribed to the channel, and some of you didn't subscribe. And that's okay. Despite that, YouTube sent me a plaque. I'm the first ever YouTuber that has a 100 subscribers plaque. It's very legitimate. Came from YouTube headquarters from earlier today. And if you didn't subscribe, you have bad takedown defense. And if you subscribe, your takedown defense will be better. But this is the first look. This is where we go over the slate fighter by fighter, salary by salary, and talk about spots that we like and spots that we don't like. At the top of the slate, we have Alex Perez. He's 9,600. Originally, he was supposed to fight Matt Schnell back on UFC 269. Things fell out. They've got the fight rebooked, and he's an even bigger favorite this time around. Now, he's going to be coming in at a slight height and reach disadvantage, but he's clearly the better fighter in this spot. His only UFC losses are to Joseph Benavidez and Davison Figueiredo, elite flyweights. Now he's going against Matt Schnell, who's notoriously chinny, and you can argue is kind of a one-dimensional guy who's primarily looking to strike. Alex Perez, on the other hand, we know can get it done on the feet. We know that he can get it done on the ground, so for those reasons, I like Alex Perez. He might come in at low ownership, but it could be for good reason. 9,600 is a lot to pay, especially with how the favorites look on this card. So I'm not going to be on Alex Perez this week. A couple months ago, when he was lower priced, that made sense, but I don't see a situation where I'm playing him at 9,600. And while I think 9,600 is a lot to pay for anybody, especially Alex Perez, I think 9,500 is a reasonable price for King Casey O'Neill. She has the best matchup on the card against Roxanne Modafferi this week, and she's looked great in her 3 UFC fights. Strong takedowns, crazy output, and I expect her to win this fight, scoring over 100 Draftkings points. And this is Roxanne Modafferi's last fight. She's 39 years old. She's well beyond her fighting prime. There's no way that I see her winning this fight. What I can see from her is her potentially surviving all 3 rounds. She's notoriously hard to put away, and that might actually make Casey O'Neill an even stronger play. If she has the whole 15 minutes to work, she's going to secure more takedowns, more control time, more significant strikes. It's a win-win situation for Casey O'Neill owners. If she gets the finish, she's going to score a lot of points because of the win bonus. And if she just gets points in a decision win, then she's probably going to rack up a whole lot of points in the process. I do expect her to finish this fight, though. The pick for me is Casey O'Neill inside the distance. At 9,400, we've got Kyler Phillips. He's fighting Marcelo Rojo this week. Kyler Phillips should win. If you look at Marcelo Rojo's record, you'll notice that he hasn't gone the distance in years, and he's one of these just all-action kind of guys, which makes for a sick fight, but not the kind of guy you want to bet on. Phillips should be able to just pick him apart, dictate where this fight goes, and ultimately find the finish. And we can expect him to get takedowns and control time, making him a strong DraftKings play with one of the best matchups on the card. So the pick for me is Kyler Phillips, TKO. I could see him getting this fight to the ground, finishing the fight with strikes from a dominant position. So Kyler Phillips, 9,400, decent play. I don't know if I'm going to be getting here just because I think they're safer, higher upside elsewhere, but I do expect him to get the finish in this spot. At 9,300, we have Ronnie Lawrence. He's fighting Martinez this week, and this looks like a great spot for Ronnie Lawrence. In his last 2 fights, he's secured 20 takedowns. He's got a great gas tank to be able to keep this grueling, grappling pace, and that's what wins fights, and that's what I think wins him this fight over Martinez. And Martinez didn't look good in his last fight. He won, but he didn't look great, and he did have a lot of things going on outside of the cage. Missed weight, was making his debut. So all of these things could play factors. It's not a surprise why he might have not been the best version of himself. But at the same time, he was fighting a then 41-year-old, 8-5 Guido Canetti. So I don't know if you can give him a pass in that situation. If Lawrence isn't knocked out in the first few minutes, I see him winning this fight and scoring a lot of DraftKings points in the process because of the volume takedowns, control time. And if Mana gasses as a result of the wrestling, I think Lawrence finishes him on the ground. So the pick for me is Ronnie Lawrence. I want to say by decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did find the finish. At 9,200, we have Israel Adesanya. He's fighting Robert Whittaker for a second time. This is an awesome rematch because It's not like they fought and decided to immediately run it back. They both have since won 3 fights in the division and have looked great in all of them. Outside of the fight with Blachowicz, Adesanya's looked incredible. He completely outclassed Paulo Costa. He was able to dictate the pace of the fight and where the fight went against Marvin Vettori, even when he was in trouble in spots. And really, you can't take much away from the Yoel Romero fight outside of the chance of him not scoring a whole lot of points in a decision win. I'm a fan of both of these guys. I love me some Bobby Knuckles, and I love me some Stylebender. But one of them has to lose, and I expect Israel Adesanya to get the win in this spot. And although I expect him to win, I don't recommend playing him on DraftKings. I say that for a few reasons. First, I expect this fight to go the distance. We are probably going to have a situation where there's more of a feeling out period than there was in the first fight. Second is I expect both of these fighters to have success at different times. Adesanya is going to do a good job of managing distance, landing counters from the outside like he always does, and Whittaker may consider taking a more grappling heavy approach considering the success that Jan Blachowicz had and what happened in their first fight. And third, Adesanya is going to pull a lot of ownership on this slate. With the options around his price looking as good as they do and the finishing upside that they have, there's a situation where if these fighters both have success, let's say Adesanya wins 3, maybe 4 rounds, but he's not doing a whole lot, he's just outpointing Robert Whittaker from the outside, you could have a situation where he scores 85 points like he did against Marvin Vettori with 5 rounds to work, or a situation where he scores 82 points like against Brad Tavares when he had 5 rounds to work. So when you take into account all of that, Robert Whittaker having success, more of a feeling out process than the first fight, crazy high ownership, and maybe not as much finishing upside, definitely not a better matchup than most of the people at this price range, all signs point to it would make sense not to play him on DraftKings this week. It's all about getting different, it's all about capturing upside, and if 70% plays Adesanya and he scores 82 points and you're not on him, then you're in a great spot. You're immediately getting different and opening yourself up to options that have better matchups. So the pick for me is Israel Adesanya by decision, and still. At 9,100, we have Jeremiah Wells. He's welcoming Blood Diamond to the UFC, and Jeremiah Wells should win this fight. He's the more experienced when it comes to MMA. He's fought better competition, and he's going to have a massive grappling advantage in this spot. He throws heavy hands. He can get a little wild at times, but his takedowns and overall physical strength are what will win him this fight, in my opinion. I expect a submission win for Wells in this spot at 9,100. He looks like one of the better plays of the week, and it would be so fun to play Blood Diamond, of course, but this is a nightmare matchup for him in his UFC debut. So the pick for me is Jeremiah Wells by submission. These Renzo Gracie Philly guys are just, don't mess with them on the ground. Don't do it. So now we're down to 9,000. We've got Sergey Morozov. We'll talk about him in a second, but we haven't picked any underdogs yet. We haven't even considered any underdogs yet. Of the top options, I think the biggest puncher's chance probably goes to Mana Martinez, and then the best matchup would be Robert Whittaker. But those people above 9,000, I don't see losing. I don't. So pricing is extremely tight. That tells us that later on we're really going to have to pay close attention to the mid-range because that's where we're going to have to live this week. We can't play everybody up here, unfortunately. But at 9,000, we have Sergey Morozov. He's fighting Douglas Silva D'Andrade this week. Morozov's a decent favorite, but early in the week, I'm noticing that the line hasn't really moved all that much. He's sitting at around minus 200, and he's not the most attractive favorite on the card. And at 9,000, with some of the other options that we've looked at, I'm definitely not looking to play him this week. And honestly, with the pricing being as tight as it is, and with how good some of these other favorites look, I think it makes sense. I think you'll find value going the opposite direction on this fight with Douglas Silva D'Andrade. He's big for the division, decent power, he's got a solid chin, so I'll take the underdog in this spot. I think Sergey's the more technical fighter, the more skilled fighter, but you have to find value when you have the pricing as tight as it is on this slate. Silva's going to give you a chance, and he's going to be able to help you save some salary as well down at 7,200. So the pick for me for this fight is going to be Douglas Silva D'Andrade by decision. At 8,900, we have Carlos Ulberg. He's fighting Fabio Charon this week. Both these guys chasing their first UFC win. Ulberg was ultimately knocked out in his debut against Nzejuku. Fabio Charon was finished in the first round by Alonzo Menafield and then finished in the first round against William Knight. I expect another first round loss for Cherant in this spot. I don't love that Carlos Ulberg gassed out in his fight, that he was winning convincingly, but the talent, undeniable. It's very, very apparent. He showed crisp kickboxing technique, and I think we were all surprised that Kennedy was able to stay standing after that early barrage, but I don't see Cherant being able to get through that. I recommend targeting Ulberg this week because of the finishing upside. And if he scores a first round finish, maybe a knockdown, that's 100 points right there, and you'll need him in your lineups. So the pick for me is Carlos Ulberg by knockout. Derrick Lewis is 8,800. He's fighting Tuivasa this week. I don't expect this fight to go outside of the first round. Both these guys have crazy knockout power. Derrick Lewis probably a little bit more so, but Tuivasa isn't far behind. In Lewis's last fight, I actually picked him to lose because he finds himself fighting from behind more often than not, and I thought the volume of Daukaus was going to give him trouble, but I was wrong. Derrick Lewis landed the knockout punch that he always does, and I sat there thinking like, oh, what? Of course he does that. I could see him doing the same thing in this fight. Tuivasa doesn't have great head movement, and he was rocked in his fight against Greg Hardy before he found the knockout. So the slight hand speed, power, experience advantage, they all lie on the side of Derrick Lewis, but I'm still going to be going Tuivasa this week. I like the momentum that he has, and I really like the power that he has, because when we look at who Derrick Lewis has fought, if you just look at his last 5, you've got Daukaus, volume, not really power. Same with Cyril Gane. Blades is a wrestler, Olenek's a grappler, Ilir Latifi is a grappler. He's not really fighting big punchers like Tuivasa, so this change of pace could be hard for him to adjust to, and I like Tuivasa to get the job done this week. So the pick for this fight is Tuivasa by knockout. He's 8,700, you have Max Grishin, and this is the range where you're going to start to be able to get some value on the other side. I would not play Max Grishin at 8,700, and not with the other options that are around him, and also he's got a bad matchup against William Knight. William Knight's probably going to have the power advantage, and William Knight's probably more live for a finish in this spot. Now, William Knight is stepping in on short notice. We were supposed to see Ed Herman, so that could impact William Knight's gas tank. We could see a situation where Maxim Grishin can come up with the finish, say late in the second, late in the third, but I really don't see that happening. I think William Knight actually wins this fight, and I'm not a big William Knight guy. I don't even like William Knight. I would recommend that you go that way if you are going to be targeting this fight. Just a guy of this caliber at this price for what you can get around him, no way. At 8,600, you got the Killa Gorilla, Jared Cannonier. He's fighting Derrick Brunson this week, and I love the way that this is priced. And I say that because Derrick Brunson is not only 7,600, but he's also blonde, so the W is guaranteed. In all seriousness, though, I do expect Derrick Brunson to win this fight. Cannonier has decent power, but I could see that being nullified by Brunson's grappling. Cannonier has been taken down by every grappler that he's faced. When he faced Teixeira, Blachowicz, David Branch took him down 3 times. Jack Hermanson was able to take him down as well. I could see blonde Brunson securing 1 to 2 takedowns per round and getting the decision win. I do worry about Derrick Brunson's chin. He does seem to get wobbled in almost every fight that he's in, but he does a good job of finding the clinch when he gets caught with something. Almost as if he's very aware that he doesn't have a great chin, so he's used to being able to just jump into survival mode. That might even happen in the gym. If he gets chin checked, he knows that he could just lean on his training partner real quick, grab the clinch, and then recover. I think Jared Cannonier is going to land. I think he's going to get a big reaction out of Brunson, but I expect Brunson to keep his wits about him, implement his game plan, get the fight to the ground when he needs to. So the pick for me is blonde Brunson by decision. 8,500, Renato Moicano is fighting Alex Hernandez this week, and I like Moicano in this fight. Renato Moicano is extremely talented, and he's fought some of the best fighters in the UFC. You've got Brian Ortega, Calvin Kattar, Cub Swanson, Jose Aldo, Korean Zombie. More recently, Rafael Fiziev. Alex Hernandez is not that caliber of fighter, and I expect Moicano to have success on the feet, maybe rock Hernandez on the feet and find a submission on the ground, or just a pretty one-sided decision win for him. Alex Hernandez doesn't have a great chin. He doesn't do anything particularly well, and he's a one-up, one-down kind of fighter. He wins, he loses, he wins, he loses, and he's coming off a win, so we know what that means. The pick for this fight is Renato Moicano. I'm going to say by decision. At 8,400, we have Bobby Green. He's fighting Nasrat Haqparast this week, and this looks like a great spot to play Bobby Green. He looks like one of the best plays on the slate at 8,400. It's not because he knocked out Ally Quinta. I really don't put too much stock into that. But Haqparast is one-dimensional. He's just a striker, and he really doesn't have the striking advantage in this spot. On top of that, Bobby Green should be able to secure some takedowns. Historically, he's done that pretty consistently. So if he's able to get back to that, I think he's going to have a lot of success. So I think that the boxing, the footwork, the wrestling, that's all going to help Bobby Green get the job done at this price. And I could see myself getting here in a lot of my lineups, which we'll build later. So the pick for me is Bobby Green by decision. At 8,300, Andrei Arvloski is 43 years old, and he's fighting Jared Vanderaa. Now, I think there's value on the underdog in this spot. Arvloski has been good at winning rounds, but he's generally low output. Jared Vanderaa is the exact opposite. He's going to throw over 100 strikes, and he doesn't really need to worry about any of the power that's coming back his way. Arvlovski's not going to be shooting for takedowns, and I think that he's going to struggle to slow the pace of the fight like he normally does. So the pick for me in this spot would be Jared Vanderaa by decision. AJ Dobson is 8,200, and this is a tough one. He's making his UFC debut against Jacob Malkoun. I do like him at this price. I expect him to get the job done. I expect him to get the finish as well. But Malkoun was a DraftKings goldmine in his last fight against Abdul Razak Alhassan. But Alhassan looked slow and tired in that fight. Before that, we saw Malkoun get one-tapped by Phil Hawes. So it's really hard to gauge. Is Malkoun going to be able to wrestle AJ Dobson? Or is he going to have trouble with the striking that's coming back at him? Tough one to call. But I am going to take AJ Dobson here, and I think it's inside the distance. And at this price, with the way that the pricing is in the bottom of this slate, which we'll look at shortly, you're going to need somebody this cheap. So I'm going to go with AJ Dobson. That could change later in the week, but for right now, he's going to be the pick. And we'll quickly look at the fighters that are at 8,000 and below. If you haven't already, like the video, please subscribe to the channel. That way I can bring more of this to you. At 8,000, you have Jacob Malkoun. If he does anything like he did in his last fight, securing a lot of takedowns and control time, we're in a real good spot if we decide to go this route. We know he's Robert Whittaker's wrestling coach. We know that he has decent gas tanks. So if he does win this fight, he's probably going to score a lot of points, so he's worth looking at 8,000. At 7,900, I think Jared Vanderaa is a great play this week. If he throws this many strikes, lands this many significant strikes, not only does he win this fight, but I think he puts Andrei Arvloski away. This guy weighs in right at the heavyweight limit, and he can strike. I mean, he won a decision against Justin Tafa, who we know has a ton of punching power, which is another reason why I don't think that he's going to be respecting the power that's coming back from Arvloski, and as a result, really going to put it on him, and I think that he might even put him away. So 7,900, sign me up for the mountain. Nasrat Haqparast at 7,800. Again, he's a striker who doesn't have the striking advantage in this spot. Don't see myself getting here. Alex Hernandez, again, he's a one-up, one-down kind of fighter. I don't think that he is as talented as Moicano. I think that he could hit Moicano with something big, maybe even find a knockout that way, but I think it's unlikely. I think if they fought 10 times, Moicano probably wins 7 out of those 10. So I don't like him at this price. I don't know why there's no nickname there. I don't know why it doesn't say Blonde Brunson. I expect him to get the win. I expect him to be able to wrestle effectively in spots, gain some control time, significant strikes from a dominant position, and get the job done at 7,600. He's a great value. William Knight at 7,500. I think a lot of people are going to try to get here just because of the perceived power. I don't think it's really that crazy, but the perceived power. And Maxim Grishin is just not somebody that I'm looking to back. So if you need some salary relief, 7,500 William Knight, he might be able to get the job done. But again, he's stepping in on short notice, so his gas tank, we really don't know where it's at. Tuivasa at 7,400. I think you need to get here. The power, again, the momentum that he has, I just expect him to get the job done. I expect him to be able to put Derrick Lewis away in, say, the first round, And look at him. Look at him go. And this is what I'm looking to see on Saturday after he gets it done. Give me Tai Tuivasa at 7,200. Give me Tai Tuivasa at 7,400. At 7,300, we have Fabio Charon. I don't expect him to get the win here. I think that he takes the loss. I think that they cut him. Douglas Silva de Andrade at 7,200. One of the better values in my opinion, just because he has the skill set. He's a one up, one down kind of guy though. No, it's not good. It's not good. You don't have to get down here, but at 7,200, I think that he's one of the better plays that are at this low price point. Blood Diamond at 7,100. A lot of people are going to talk themselves into playing Blood Diamond. I might even talk myself into playing Blood Diamond. We expect him to have the striking advantage. We know that he's a decent kickboxer. That striking doesn't always necessarily transfer to MMA. A lot of question marks, limited experience going up against somebody who is a tough guy to deal with, one of the tougher unranked guys to deal with. So I don't think that I'll get here, but who knows? Who knows? Robert Whittaker at 7,000, very live to win this fight. He's looked fantastic since the Adesanya loss, kind of like Derrick Brunson, where he's able to lose to somebody like Adesanya, pick himself back up, have success afterward. Very, very cool to see. At 7,000, I mean, this is probably the cheapest Robert Whittaker has been on DraftKings in years. If you're targeting this fight, I recommend that you play this side of it. Not because I think he's going to win, but again, because Adesanya is so expensive, high ownership, probably not going to score a ton of points. I would recommend that you go this route if you want to roster the main event. Martinez, probably the biggest puncher's chance on the card. Obviously he has a ton of power, a ton of first round knockouts, and he might even be live for that quick win bonus if he can pull it off. But Ronnie Lawrence's grappling looks like it's on another planet compared to where Martinez probably is right now. But my mind could change on this as well, because that power is there, that power is real, and if he does score a first-round knockout, you're going to need him at 6,900. Marcelo Rojo, a killer-be-killed kind of guy. I just think that skill-wise, technique-wise, talent-wise, Kyler Phillips is going to be a little bit ahead of him in this fight, so I don't expect him to win. I do expect it to be an entertaining fight, but I think Kyler Phillips inside the distance is going to ring true. Roxanne Modafferi, she's retiring. Peace. Matt Schnell, opportunistic guy, dangerous guy, will grab up a submission the moment it presents itself, but Alex Perez seems just too solid for that. But it's not like he has the worst matchup at the card at 6,600. That is it. That's our first look. That's our full card breakdown. Thank you so much for watching. As always, like the video, subscribe to the channel. That way I can bring more of this to you.